Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the why, what and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the articles displayed on the screen from the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 15th December 2018. So let's start our discussion. This article on page number 6 talks about the impact of climate change on agriculture in India and what are the measures that are required to be taken by the government in order to make the agriculture climate change resilient. So this forms an important part of the General Studies paper 3 under the topic environment. Now if you go through the previous year questions in the year 2017, there was a question asked related to climate change and how India will be affected by the climate change. So in this line you can see that agriculture is one of the sector which will be badly impacted by the climate change. So that is why this becomes important for us from exam point of view. So in this article let us try to understand what are the steps that are required to be taken by the government and what are the key present interventions. So now before going into the details of this article, you should understand this question from your mains examination point of view and try to use the points that we will discuss in answering this question. So this question requires you to analyze the interventions that are required for making the agriculture climate change resilient. So in this article, the authors have mainly discussed the steps that are required for making agriculture climate resilient. Further, they have highlighted various interventions by the Government of India in this regard. So all these points can be used in answering this question from your mains examination point of view. So now let us take up all these points one by one. Now let us look at the focus of this article. So this article highlights that as it has been highlighted by the 6th assessment report of the IPCC, there is a need for devising strategies to make agriculture more climate resilient. Further, the IPCC report states that due to global warming, indigenous populations and local communities which are dependent on agriculture or coastal livelihoods are very vulnerable to the climate impacts. So the IPCC report highlights that the indigenous communities and the local communities are more vulnerable to climate change. Further, regarding Indian agriculture, you should note that 85% of the farmers in India are small or marginal farmers. And these farmers are highly sensitive to weather abnormalities which are created due to global warming. And these vulnerabilities are highlighted by the increasing intensity of heat waves and deficit monsoon. Here you should note that this year the monsoon was 9% deficit from the normal monsoonal rainfall. So in this slide, the article highlights that there is a need for strategic change in dealing with the climate change in agriculture. Now let us look at what needs to be done in order to make agriculture more climate resilient. So in this regard, it has been highlighted that at the micro level or the farm level, the traditional wisdom or the age-old practices of farmers need to be strengthened by improving the extension services and by the promotion of climate-resilient technologies. Now here you should note that traditional practices like sowing of drought-resistant varieties in the times of drought is one example. For example, the farmers in Rajasthan sow bajra or jowar which are drought-resistant. So in this regard, it has been highlighted that this wisdom of the traditional farmers should be improved and strengthened by the use of extension services, for example, providing them information by the use of Krishi Vigyan Kendras, etc. Further, they should also be made aware about the climate resilient technologies like the use of micro irrigation by the use of drip irrigation or the sprinkler system. So at the micro level, what is required is the good mix of traditional wisdom with the scientific techniques of modern times. So this can help in making the agriculture more climate resilient. Further, to make the agriculture more climate change resilient, it has been highlighted that the climate change risks can be further reduced by the use of techniques like intercropping, crop rotation, etc. Now here you should note that the intercropping means sowing of 2 or more crops in a piece of land. So in case of a drought, if one crop fails, the other crop can hedge for the risk of the farmer. Further, there should be use of crop rotation which will help in restoring or protecting and conserving the nutrient of the soil. Further, it has been highlighted that there is a need for shifting to non-farm activities, which can include livestock rearing, dairy, etc. Further, the use of new techniques like the use of solar pumps, drip irrigation and sprinklers should be encouraged to make the agriculture more climate resilient. Further, there is a need to educate the farmers by the use of Krishi Vigyan Kendras. And also there is a need to strengthen other grassroots organizations which provide farmers with the hands-on information related to modern techniques of agriculture. Now regarding the Krishi Vigyan Kendras, you should note that these are the centers which provide information to the farmers related to agriculture. So these Krishi Vigyan Kendras should be strengthened to provide farmers with the information related to risks which are associated with various crops in times of droughts. So this can be one intervention which can help the farmers in fighting the risks of climate change. Now all these measures are interventions at the micro level or at the farm level. However, there is also a need for intervention at the macro level or the government policy level. So in this regard, the economic survey has highlighted that the climate change adaptations should be mainstreamed in the current developmental framework. It has also been pointed out that there are programs of the government which document the likely consequences of climate change. However, there is a lack of systematic adaptation planning and resource conservation practices, which means that although the government programs recognize that there are adverse consequences of climate change on the agriculture, there is no focus on planning and resource conservation which can help the farmers in fighting the menace of climate change and its impact on the agriculture. Now, there are various interventions by the Government of India in the agriculture, and these can be useful in fighting the effects or the risks which are generated due to climate change on the agriculture. For example, there are policies like Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, there is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So in this regard, you should note that the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana has a component for micro irrigation using drip irrigation and sprinkler system. And these techniques can considerably reduce the use of water in agriculture. And this will be helpful in drought affected areas. Further, there is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which insures the crops against the impact of disasters, etc., which are generally aggravated by the climate change. Further, there are soil health cards which focus on the nutrients of the soil, and these can help the farmers in considerably reducing the use of chemical fertilizers. Further, there is a program called Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, and this focuses on the organic and the traditional systems of farming. Further, to improve the marketing of the agriculture products, the National Agriculture Market or the ENAM has been introduced. So along with this, there are other rural development programs which are positive interventions, and these can address the vulnerability of farmers and rural households. Further, there are specific programs which deal with the impact of climate change on agriculture. And these are the National Innovations on Climate Resilient Agriculture or the NICRA. Then there is the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. And then there are the National Adaptation Fund and the State Action Plan on Climate Change or the SAPCC. So now what you should do is that you should gather information regarding all these programs and policies of the Government of India which are related to agriculture. And these will be important for you from the preliminary examination point of view. You should further note that there was a question in the preliminary examination in the year 2016 which was related to the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So all these policies become important for us from preliminary examination point of view. And as mentioned here, these policies can also be used in the answers which are related to the mains examination. So finally, the article concludes that there is a need for convergence of climate actions with the ongoing efforts of the Government of India. And there is a need for greater expertise and consultations for a systematic prioritization of actions and fiscal prudence for building climate resilient agriculture. So what this means is that there should be prioritization of actions which can help in reducing the risks which are associated with the climate change on the agriculture. Further, by the use of expertise and consultations and a scientific approach, the impact on the fiscal resources of the government can be minimized, and they can be made more prudent for building a climate resilient agriculture system in India. So there can be interventions at the micro level and the macro level. And these are some of the key interventions, and they need to be converged and should be more focused on the climate change's impact on agriculture. Now, as discussed earlier, these points can be used in answering this question from your mains examination point of view. Now, as mentioned earlier, all the programs and policies which are related to agriculture which have been mentioned in this article are important for us from preliminary examination point of view. Let us take up one question which is related to one such policy. So you should try and answer this question which is related to the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana from your preliminary examination point of view. And the answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the correct answer in this case is D, that is, the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana has been formulated by amalgamating all these programs like the Accelerated Irrigation Benefits Program, the Integrated Watershed Management Program, and On-Farm Water Management Program. So you should similarly learn about all these schemes which have been mentioned in this article. And with this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 9 is related to the plastic pollution. So this will form a part of the General Studies paper 3 of the mains examination under the topic environment. Now, although most of the points which are mentioned in this article are not important for us from exam point of view, however, we'll try to learn about key facts that are related to the plastic pollution and the steps that have been taken by the Government of India in this regard. Further, we will also try to understand what are microplastics and what is the danger of these microplastics in our environment. Now, you should note that the World Environment Day was celebrated in India this year on 5th June. And the theme of the World Environment Day was Beat the Plastic Pollution. And the various details of the plastic pollution have been discussed in the DNS of 21st June 2018. So you should also go through this video. And now we will try to understand some key facts related to plastic pollutions. Now, some important facts and data related to plastic pollution should be kept in mind from your mains examination point of view. For example, one such fact is that by 2050, there would be more plastics in the oceans as compared to the fishes. Further, this year's theme of the Environment Day 2018, which was hosted by India, had beating the plastic pollution as its theme. Further, the packaging industry worldwide comprises 40% of the plastics produced globally. Now, there are certain problems associated with the use of plastic, and this includes that there is no replacement for plastics because it acts as a barrier to water and air. So no such product has been created which protects against the water and air effectively. Further, it is lightweight and easy to use, and this promotes the use of plastic in daily life and various industrial purposes. Further, there have been debates related to replacement of plastic with the glass. However, it has been found that usage of glass containers increases energy consumption by 5 times. And then there are ghost nets in the oceans, and these are the nets which are lost by the fishermen during their fishing activity. A lot of fishes get entangled in these ghost nets accidentally and die. So that is why it is increasing stress on the marine ecosystem. So these are a few ready-made facts which can be used in your mains examination related to the plastic pollution. Now let us look at some of the steps taken by the Government of India and the various state governments regarding the plastic pollution. Now you should note that the Government of India has come up with the plastic waste management rules. Now these plastic waste management rules are pretty straightforward and are included in your DNS which is attached to this video. Further, you should note that the Kerala government has started a Suchitwa mission, and this mission aims at fishing out the plastic waste from the water bodies. Further, you should note that the Sikkim government has completely banned the usage of single-use plastics. Further, 20 other states have banned it. However, their implementation has not been very effective. Now, regarding the single-use plastics, you should note that these are those plastics which are used just for one time. For example, the straws or the disposable glasses and plates are such examples. Now, there have been certain positive steps like the using of plastic for the construction of roads in Kerala, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu as well. Further, the Gujarat government has started co-processing of waste. And in this co-processing of the waste material is utilized in industrial processes. And most of the plastic waste is being used in the cement mills. Further, you should note that the National Green Tribunal has asked the central government regarding its response on ban on the microplastics in India. So these are some of the steps which have been taken by the Government of India and various state governments. And they can be used in your answers. Now, regarding the microplastics, you should note that these are plastic pieces which are smaller than 5 millimeter. And these microplastics are found by breaking down of plastic debris and are non-biodegradable in nature. Now, as these are non-biodegradable in nature, they are eaten by the marine animals. And through this, they enter our food chains. Now, the United Nations Environment Programme states that the microplastics appeared in personal care products about 50 years ago. So this is not a new phenomena and was noticed even 50 years ago. However, the problem has now increased multifold. Further, you should note that in India, the first reported deposition of the microplastics occurred in the Vembanad Lake in Kerala. And most of the times it has been reported that common household articles like drinking water and table salts contain microplastics. And these are dangerous for human body. Now you should note that Oceans Cleanup Project has been started by an NGO and it aims at removing the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in 5 years. Now, regarding the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, you should note that it is the largest accumulation of plastics in the ocean. So, these are few important facts or points which can be used in answers which are related to the plastic pollution. For other details, you can go through this DNS of 21st June 2018. Now, the size of the microplastics become important for us from examination point of view. So, you should go through this question from your preliminary examination point of view, the answer for which will be displayed after 5 seconds. So, the correct answer is D, that microplastics have a size less than 5 millimeter. And with this, let us move on to the next article. Now, after going through few articles in detail, let us try and understand some of the articles from the daily news headlines which can be accessed from the Rouse IAS website from our preliminary examination point of view. And we will discuss these articles in brief. Now, this news on page number 2 is related to the bird flu which is prevalent in the Puri district in Odisha. And this is also known as H5N1. Now, although this has been covered in the DNS of 14th December, let us try to understand key facts that are related to the H5N1. Now, H5N1 is also known as bird flu and is a viral disease. And it can spread from birds to the human beings. However, it does not spread from human beings to human beings. So, this is the important fact from your preliminary examination point of view, that the bird flu can spread from the birds to the human beings. However, it does not spread from one human being to another. Further, this disease affects the respiratory system of the birds. Further, you should note that it spreads to human beings only in case of close contact with the infected birds. Now, the symptoms include fever, cough, sore throat, and muscle aches. Now, why is the H5N1 dangerous? Now, it is dangerous because various researchers have predicted that if the virus gets mutated and makes genetic changes, it will help them in transmitting from human to human. So, due to genetic mutations, the virus will start moving from one human being to another, which is not the case presently. And further, you should note that the mortality rate amongst the human beings which are suffering from H5N1 is around 60%. So, these are few facts related to H5N1 virus which are important for us from exam point of view. Now, this question was asked in the year 2015 and it reads that the H1N1 virus is sometimes mentioned in the news with reference to which one of the following disease. So, the correct answer was that it is related to swine flu. So, now you should try and answer this question from your preliminary examination point of view, and the answer for this question will be displayed after 5 seconds. So, the correct answer in this case is C, that is H5N1 is related to the bird flu. Now, this article on page number 5 is related to the seizure of arms from a fishing vessel, and it has been done by the INS Sunayna. So, let us understand some key facts related to INS Sunayna from our preliminary examination point of view. So, regarding INS Sunayna, you should note that it is an anti-piracy patrol vessel, or rather it is an offshore anti-piracy patrol vessel, and it has been deployed in the Gulf of Aden. So, now you should also be aware of the location of Gulf of Aden. So, it is located in the Arabian Sea near the coast of Yemen. Further, you should note that this vessel was used in the Operation Nistar, and it was sent to the Socotra island which is located off the coast of Yemen. And this Operation Nistar was related to the evacuation of Indians which were stranded due to cyclone in this island. So, the important points that emerge are that INS Sunayna is an offshore anti-piracy patrol vessel. It has been deployed in the Gulf of Aden. Further, the location of Gulf of Aden is important. And one important fact is that it was deployed in Operation Nistar near the Socotra Island. So, the location of this Socotra Island becomes important. Now, this article on page number 5 states that the Delhi High Court has quashed the central government's ban on oxytocin manufacture. Now, let us understand this issue briefly. Now, the Himachal Pradesh High Court had recently passed an order which stated that the oxytocin posed grave dangers to human beings. Now, as a follow-up to this decision of the High Court, the central government imposed ban on the manufacturing of oxytocin. And only one state-run entity was allowed to manufacture the oxytocin. However, the Delhi High Court has now quashed this ban on manufacturing of oxytocin. In this regard, the reasons provided by the Delhi High Court are that The center has not conducted scientific studies relating to the dangers which are posed by oxytocin. Further, you should note that the oxytocin is helpful during the deliveries for pregnant women. So that is why in the absence of the supply of oxytocin, the High Court has observed that it will lead to maternal fatalities or maternal mortality. So that is why the High Court has removed this ban and has now allowed the private sector also to manufacture this oxytocin. Now, what is important for us from exam point of view is the basics that are related to the oxytocin hormone. So the important fact related to the oxytocin is that it is a hormone which is released by pituitary gland during childbirth, lactation or social bonding. So that is why this hormone is also called as love hormone. Now, although this hormone is released naturally by the pituitary gland, it is also chemically synthesized and used during childbirth. Now, as this hormone is used during childbirth, it helps in various ways. Now, this hormone helps in the uterus contraction, which leads to easy childbirth. Further, it helps in inducing delivery. It also controls bleeding during the childbirth. And further, it is important for the release of breast milk during the childbirth. And you should note that the breast milk is important from the nutritional point of view for the newborn child. So the important points are that it is naturally released by pituitary gland and is also known as love hormone. However, it is also chemically synthesized and is important for easy childbirth. And how it helps during childbirth? It helps in uterus contraction, it induces easy delivery, it controls bleeding during childbirth, and it also helps in the release of breast milk during the childbirth. Now on page number 7, there is a news related to the Bru tribals of Mizoram. Now these Bru tribals are in news because due to ethnic violence in 1997, a large number of Bru families fled to Tripura. Now they are again in news because of elections that were held in Mizoram. Now as these have moved to Tripura, there was a demand that their names be included in the electoral lists in Mizoram. So that is why the verification of these Bru tribes was done based on the 1996 electoral rolls, so that these members are able to take part in the elections that were held in Mizoram. Now what is important for us from exam point of view is that these Bru tribes belong to Mizoram. Now another name of these Bru tribes is Riang. And further, they are largely restricted to the Mamit and the Kolasib district of Mizoram. So only these points which include that Bru tribes belong to Mizoram, the other name of Bru tribes is Riang, and they are restricted to the Mamit and Kolasib districts in Mizoram. Now this article on page number 11 is related to the launch of e-commerce portal by India Post. Now the important points to note from the exam point of view are that it has been launched by the India Post. Further, this has been launched with the intention to help the rural artisans and the self-help groups so that they can sell their products across the country by the use of this e-commerce platform. Further, the India Post will pick up products from the vendors and deliver to the doorsteps of customers. You should also note that the India Post comes under the Department of Posts, Ministry of Communications. So these are a few important points related to the e-commerce portal that has been launched by the India Post. Now another news on page number 11 is related to the RBI Board's meeting. Now the details of RBI Board has been discussed in the DNS of 12th November 2018. So you should go through this video to understand the details related to the RBI Board. Now let us take up some questions from our preliminary examination point of view. So you should try and answer this question from your preliminary examination point of view, and answer for this will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the correct answer is C. This is because the second pair has not been correctly matched. Now you should attempt this question related to the oxytocin, and the answer for the same will be displayed after 5 seconds. So the correct answer here is B, that is 2 only, because it is not secreted by the mammary glands but is secreted by the pituitary gland. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.